In today's video, I am going to be talking about timeouts and some of the things that are said and done, and basically some tips that you can use if you are a basketball coach so that you can win some games. If you are a newer basketball coach, make sure to go check out my complete guide to coaching youth basketball. It is a fantastic book that can give you a lot of insight on as to how to coach youth basketball. So definitely go check that out down in the description below. So there's two types of timeouts. There's your timeout, and then there is the other team's timeout. And obviously, if taking a timeout yourself, obviously it is usually something that your team is doing that you do not want them to do. Or the other situation is you want to change a strategy because you may be reading that the other team has kind of figured out one of your plays and you want to be able to change that up. Now, myself, when I take timeouts, most of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, it is to take a timeout to either stop the run of the other team, or it is because I want to be able to clarify either a play or change a defensive play. And out of that 90%, I would say probably 70% of that 90% would be for me to change a defensive play. I'm going to be using an app called Playbook. It is an app that you can get down in the description below, and it is a fantastic app for iPads. Now, I use this on my timeouts. It's a fantastic app to use. I like my iPad because I've learned that it helps me stay calm and I don't want to try and break my clipboard, but that's a totally different reason for a totally different day. Either way, I've only broken a clipboard once, so don't judge me. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is when I'm using the app or when I'm using a clipboard, and let's say, for example, we are running just randomly a 1-3-1. And I've got my guys set up where, okay, I want trap everywhere. Let's just say I want to trap everywhere. No matter where we are, I want traps. Well, let's say the initial trap up top is not working. They're able to pass out of it extremely well. Well, now, hey, guys, I want you guys to sink back just a bit, maybe tighten it up a little bit, and I just want to trap these lower corners. You can change up your strategy on defense and still run the exact same play. Now, keep in mind that you probably want to teach this stuff before you actually use it in game. You've got practices for a reason, but this is just a random example. Or you can be at a timeout and say, hey, right now, this is what I'm seeing on the floor. I'm seeing that the defense is setting up in their 2-3 zone defense, and they're playing it extremely high. I want us to be able to get this ball to one of the guys on the wings as fast as possible. I want you to try and attack that gap as fast as possible, and I want the corner players to cut baseline quick. Things like that. You can change up your strategy. So a lot of times I won't be using a clipboard, a lot of the times because I'm doing defensive changes that I'm not talking about clipboard stuff. I'm usually saying stuff like, for example, hey, what's killing us right now is defense. Our defense is terrible. The reason why it's terrible is because we're not talking. We're not calling our gaps. We're not calling our helps. We're not calling where we are on the court. Our teammates need to know, screen right. Why is nobody talking? Can you please start talking on defense? What are some of the things that we can say? Gap, help, screen right, screen left, fight, over, under, something. Talk. If we can talk, we can make our defensive stops. And if we can make our defensive stops, we can get back on offense and we can start scoring more. Another reason, or another way, or another type of speech that I could go into is something like, hey, we're dribbling just too much. If you are not moving that ball in 2 seconds, do not let it grenade. Do not allow that play to blow up. We made 4, 5, 6 fantastic, beautiful passes, and then it gets stuck in our hands and we start doing a whole bunch of fancy stuff, and we can't be doing that. If you are going to take a dribble, you have to go somewhere with that dribble. You can't just take 3 dribbles in the same spot and say, yo, look, I'm trying to break your ankles. It don't work like that. If you are going to take a dribble, you have to either move the ball left or right to get to a different spot to set up the play, or you need to attack the basket. Because, for example, we run set plays, or I run with my teams that I'm the head coach of. I run set plays that move into a motion. So if we are not running the motion right after the set play is blowing up, then we have an issue. We need to move that ball extremely fast. So let's say play blows up. We didn't hit our initial action. Now we have to go into a 5-out motion. If we're not moving the ball, it ain't gonna work. So these are some of the things that I talk about on Timeout myself. Some coaches, they'll go right literally into, I'll get rid of these guys. There are some coaches that will say, hey, guys, I want, let's say, Dominic here, Kyle here, Tyler here, David here. Look, I want this screen up top. We've never practiced this before, but I want this screen. And then I want you to cut back door, and I want you to roll, and I want you to use this and do this and that and this and that. And they will literally go into a play that they have never ran before with a bunch of kids who are 13 years old. And when you do stuff like that, yes, some kids will be able to run that beautifully. But if you're talking about 13-year-olds and you are literally saying Bobby's here, Kyle's here, Tyler's here, David's here, somebody else is here, and I want you to set this screen here. I want you to roll. I want a back screen here so we can get that drive here and we can kick it out for that 3. Some players will be able to run that beautifully. Others will not be able to run that beautifully. And if you're not practicing a play like that, it ain't going to work. So one of the funniest things I've seen over this past year with a coach is he ran the same set as we normally ran. And it was like a high 1-4 set. And one of the things that I just really laughed at was when he's explaining it, literally at the end of the timeout, the clipboard looked exactly like this. And I know the first 35% of it, maybe, if I was a player, I would have got it. After there was so many scratches and lines and whatever else on that clipboard, I would have been lost. If you're a coach, in my opinion, this is something that can help your players is you can make your guys whatever, I don't care, but that's one set. And the reason why I like this app is because you can just quickly go undo, and you can delete that line. However, if you've got a whiteboard, you might have to use your fist or something to rub off a line, because you could say that's actually something I would like added onto here, but you could go, okay, well, you got this. He sets the screen down. Okay, well, now he's setting that screen down. You're up. You still have these guys here. And you can go in and still break it down, but you can go play by play. And that's something that a lot of coaches, or at least one of the coaches that I've recently seen, doesn't do. And by the end of the timeout, it's just so confusing. And if you're a coach that has lines like this all over your clipboard, it's just confusing at the end of the timeout. So if you can keep a nice clean clipboard, it's even better. Or if you have an older clipboard that's been used for the last 20 years and never been washed, that also, when you get a brand new marker and it barely markers onto that thing because it's got layer upon layer upon layer of marker that's been washed off and rubbed off and whatever, and it's just so slick that new markers don't work on it, instead of getting mad at the marker, clean the board. And if it's been all scratched up because you've been chucking it and whatever else, and something in the trunk of the car is scratched along it, and it's bringing on lines of its own that confuses players, it's time to get a new board. But overall, this is my tips for a timeout. I know this might be hating on some types of coaches, but those are my feelings. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. Make sure to get my complete guide to coaching youth basketball. That is down in the description below.